People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. Carl Jung. They disrespected you. Not by mistake, not in passing, but with intention. They watched your kindness and called it weakness. They tested your silence and mistook it for fear. They crossed a line and expected you to forgive, to chase, to explain yourself again, but something changed. You didn't shout, you didn't fight, you didn't break. You simply became silent. And in that silence, something terrifying happened. Not to you, to them. Because Carl Jung understood. The human psyche is terrified of one thing more than anything else, its own reflection. And your silence forced them to see exactly that. In this video, I'll reveal 5 psychological moves. Moves so quiet, so still, they look like nothing on the outside. But inside they are storms, silent storms that flip the power dynamic entirely and leave the person who disrespected you regretting they ever tried to play with your mind. Let's begin. Why they needed you to react. The game was always rigged, but only if you played. People who operate in disrespect don't want truth, they want control. They study your reactions, your smiles, your apologies, your defenses, and every time you explain yourself, they win. Every time you beg to be understood, they tighten their grip. Every time you react, they feed. Jung saw this clearly. He called it projection. A defense mechanism where someone refuses to deal with their own shadow and instead dumps it onto someone else. That someone was you. They projected their insecurity, their fear, their rage onto you, and then blamed you for reacting. But the moment you stopped reacting, the moment you fell into that sacred silence, everything started to collapse. Not for you, for them. Because now they're alone with their shadow, and it terrifies them. Let's walk through the 5 silent moves that trigger this collapse, one by one, quietly, powerfully. The I don't owe you clarity shift. At some point you realize explaining yourself to someone who never wanted to understand you is a form of self-betrayal. This is the first silent move. You stop defending your intentions. You stop clarifying your emotions. You stop justifying your reactions. They ask, why are you being distant? Why don't you talk to me like before? Why are you acting different? And you ask, just look at them. Maybe with a faint smile, maybe with nothing at all. Because they don't deserve your clarity anymore. Carl Jung taught that the psyche grows when we reclaim what we gave away unconsciously. And what you gave this person, was your need to be seen. Now that need is gone. Your silence says everything. I know who I am. I don't need your permission to be whole, and I don't need your understanding to move on. This silence makes them uneasy. At first they'll mock it. Wow, now you're too good to talk? Then they'll push. You can't just shut down on people like that. Then they'll panic. Did I lose you for real? Yes. Because you didn't just go silent. You closed a door they thought would always stay open. And now? They're on the outside, knocking, and no one's answering. The predator mirror stare. This one is surgical, and it terrifies manipulators more than any threat ever could. You don't scream, you don't accuse, you just stare, not with rage, not with tears, not with brokenness, with absolute clarity. You lock eyes, just long enough for them to see it. You're not the person they disrespected anymore. Carl Jung said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. But that goes both ways. Now, they see themselves, clearly, uncomfortably, in your silence. They try to joke. You don't laugh. They make a passive-aggressive jab. You don't flinch. They raise their voice. You blink slowly, unmoved. And it's that stillness that terrifies them. Because your stare is no longer a plea to be seen. It's a mirror, a silent, merciless mirror. They're forced to face their own darkness, the very thing they projected onto you for so long. And when you don't react, when you don't even need to speak, they realize something horrifying. You've already left them emotionally, and they can't reach you, and they can't reach you. The pattern interruption, this one's brutal because it breaks their rhythm. Every manipulator depends on patterns. Insult, apology, ignore, case, hurt you, watch you react. But now, you don't react, you don't chase, you don't beg, you just do something unexpected, And quiet. They provoke you, and you yawn. They guilt-trip you, and you change the subject. They play the victim, and you say nothing. Carl Jung believed that our unconscious repeats cycles until we make them conscious. Your silence is your awakening, your refusal to play, power. They notice immediately. They try harder, say something cruel just to get a rise out of you, but all they get is peace. All they hear is stillness, and it drives them mad. Why? Because they've lost their script. The whole game depended on your reaction. Without it, there's no show, and without the show, they have no identity, so they spiral. That's when you stay still. And in that silence, they realize they're losing control, fast. The soft lockout. This one is subtle, quiet, and it hurts the most. You don't block them, you don't curse them out, you just stop letting them in. You stop texting back right away. You stop volunteering your thoughts. You stop offering emotional updates. You're still polite, but emotionally, you're a locked vault. And here's what makes this so devastating. You don't explain it. You don't announce it. You don't warn them. One day they're in, the next they're out. Carl Jung wrote that individuation is the process of reclaiming all parts of the self, not to please others, but to become whole. You're doing exactly that. No more emotional leakage. No more open-door policy. No more unearned intimacy. They feel it deeply. They realize they no longer have the emotional passkey. They're on the outside now, knocking. And the silence behind the door? It says, "You disrespected something sacred, and now it's gone." The quiet glow-up this move doesn't require eye contact, doesn't require words, doesn't even require your presence, because this move happens when you're not even thinking about them anymore. You go silent, and you go inward. You start healing, reading, training, building, reclaiming. You no longer seek revenge, you seek evolution. You don't talk about your growth, you become it. Carl Jung said, "The self emerges, not through external validation, but through deep confrontation with the unconscious." And while they were busy wondering why you stopped reacting, you were becoming someone reachable. And then, one day, they see you again. Maybe online, maybe in person, maybe by accident, and what they see, shakes them. You're glowing, not in arrogance, in awareness, in energy, in confidence. You look nothing like the version they disrespected, because that version died in the silence, and the new you doesn't even need them to notice, but they do. And in that moment, they feel something they didn't expect. Not just for losing you, but for never realizing who you truly were. That's it. Until it was too late, you became the silence they can't escape. Let them talk. Let them wonder. Let them create stories to explain why you changed. You owe no one a performance, no reaction, no closure. Carl Jung believed the most dangerous thing you can ever do is become aware of your own power. You've done that. You didn't fight, you didn't beg. You didn't try to win them over. You went silent. And in that silence, you didn't lose. You leveled up. Now the person who disrespected you was left with only one thing. The echo. An ache. A memory of who you were. And a haunting silence where your energy used to be. They'll regret it loudly. But you'll move in silence, quietly becoming everything they were afraid you'd become. You didn't beg. You didn't try to win them over. You went silent, and in that silence, you didn't lose. You leveled up. Now the person who disrespected you is left with only one thing. An echo, an ache, a memory of who you were, and a haunting silence where your energy used to be. They'll regret it loudly. But you'll move in silence, quietly becoming everything they were afraid you'd become.